Hey, 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 you all. Good afternoon and happy Monday. This is Latanya Washington of Night School, and I am so excited that I have Dr. Akin with me on this afternoon. We're going to be talking about the impact of racism, and I'm not just going to say racism, I'm going to say systemic racism on the Black community, in the Black culture. And so I'm ready. And so we are about to talk about it, and we're going to answer questions, and we're going to get it in. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Night School. I have with me this afternoon Dr. Akin, and she has an extensive bio. I'm just going to give a little bit of it, if that's all right. But Dr. Akin has a PhD in family psychology. She is the behavior health commissioner for the 4th district for the county of Riverside. She's the CEO of Global Healing Network. She's a wife, she's a mother, and she is a lover of God. We love that. Good afternoon, Dr. Akin. How are you?
Good afternoon. Just one correction. It's the county of San Bernardino. Don't start a war between the counties now.
I'm not going to start a war. I am not going to do it. So the county of San Bernardino. Did I get that right?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the correction. How are you feeling, first and foremost?
I'm feeling okay today. How are you?
I cannot complain. In the midst of everything, I think we are doing pretty well.
In everything, give thanks.
In everything, give thanks. So today we are going to be talking about the impact of racism. And as I said previously, it's not just racism. I wanted to put the word systemic in there because I was sharing with someone, I think it was my sister the other day, as I began to sit still and I began to think about some things, Dr. Akin, and I said, many times we always say as a Black community, as the Black culture, we have to stay two steps ahead, or, the mindset of so many people dealing with so much, but not realizing we're dealing with stuff because it's been a system of racism, and it's been over and over and over again that we deal with so much. And so shed a little bit of light in regards to systemic racism, or explain what it is all about before we even get into the questions.
Excellent. There's so much to unpack, but let's just start from the basics. Let's just start with what is trauma. When we talk about, that's where this all leads to trauma. That's why I'm here. Mm-hmm. Trauma means wound. It's a Greek word for wound. Mm-hmm. And so when we talk about, when you have a wound, you have to take care of it. You have to triage it. And if you don't take care of it, what happens? It festers, it gets infected, right, and it impacts all parts of your bodies that you don't even want to impact, right? So when we talk about racism, there is systemic racism, and that is systems that have been set up for your own disadvantage. The way I say it is, look, this is a house that Jack built. And when Jack built that house, he built it for himself. Right. Or he didn't have us in mind. Right. And now we're saying we want a share of the house. Of course, the owner of the house is saying, no, we're not going to give up power. And so when this system was built, someone referred to it, I think it's Dr. Johnson, that said that there are no loopholes in the system. Mm-hmm. If one doesn't get you, another one would get you. Mm-hmm. So there's systems, we think of systems of education, things of the judicial system, think of social welfare systems, any system that you can think of. Well, for Black people, they find that they are at a disadvantage because the system itself is in cahoots with them, against them. It doesn't want them to be to prosper. Yeah. So you can, if you don't get hit by the judicial system, you're going to get pulled over by police before you're 18. You're going to, or you can do everything right. You can do everything right and then get a job and you're not promoted, or you have to work twice as hard, and you all of those things, that's part of the system. The system, as when we talk about systemic racism, I'm also, I'm a family psychologist, which means that I'm also a systems psychologist. So
Yeah.
what then happens is when we talk about systems, it's not in isolation. Systems, anything is a system. So your house, the way you do things in your house, it's, that's the system, your method, your modus operandi. So your family is a system. Your relationship is a system. So they're different systems. And so when you have these ecosystems and one thing feeds on the other and relies upon the other, we're not talking about systems in isolation. People make up systems.
Yeah.
So let me give you a better example. In a marriage, for example, the marriage is a system. Okay. But but who created that system? The people involved, the husband, the wife, the family is a system. Who creates that system? The people involved in the system. So you have your own spoken rules. Okay, there might be written rules. You signed that contract. You signed that contract at church or wherever wherever you signed it. And it's not the contract that holds, not just the contract that holds you together, but the unwritten rules, the processes, the procedures. So when people say the system isn't racist, it's just a few bad apples, you have to understand what a system contains. It consists of not just the rules that you wrote down, but how you've maintained the system. Who wakes up before whom? When do you wake up? Who does the laundry? All of those things, you didn't write them down, but it's the method of doing things. And so systems are racist, not because of the things they wrote down, sometimes it's not because of the rules that have been written down, but the method of operation, because of the way people unfold those rules and interpret those rules, it becomes part of the system. And when that system is now given a disadvantage to a group of people who've been here since the beginning of this country, who should own a piece of the pie, then it becomes injurious. It becomes a wound, and that's where the trauma comes in. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. And it literally almost goes back to what is it? Post-traumatic stress disorders. Even
PTSD.
when the people came back from war, and you begin to realize we're dealing with the same thing, post-traumatic stress disorders. And I'm curious to know, Dr. Akin, in the future, if we literally will um, be able to rely on that when we're dealing with stuff, even in the workforce. What do you think about that? Because that's going to be interesting.
Well, there's something called epigenetics.
Okay.
And when you talk about epigenetics, you're talking about the expression of your genes. So you think of your DNA. Your DNA is written in stones. Nothing can happen to it. It's there. You can't change your DNA. But epigenetics is how your DNA is expressed. And so either some things you express more than others. Some things lay dormant, is never used. So trauma is one of the things that can be passed on to generations. And so they did a study during the Civil War, when we had the Union Army, when some of them were taken as prisoners of war, and just horrible encampments, and just inhumane. And what happened was they followed them and they did a study on them. And they found out that, they were injured by the experiences that they went through, that they had gone through.
Right.
So basically, some of them were addicts. They couldn't keep a job. They were stressed. There was all kinds of things that happened. But see, when I tell you that, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. They were in such horrendous situations. So it makes sense that they would react in some kind of way, right?
Right.
Okay. However, the study then followed their children. And they found out that the children manifested the same symptoms as the people who were in the camp. Wait, it gets worse. The grandchildren also had some form of trauma. And this is when we begin to see that this thing called epigenetics, it is this the expression of genes. You find out that it travels through generations. You can, some people have said up to like 14 generations, but no matter what the number is the experience of trauma that happened 400 years ago. It's been recycled. And the thing with the trauma of slavery is that it never ended. It never ended. Not only were we the history of trauma is entrenched in our system. People also experience trauma personally. So you don't only have a historic trauma, you not only have a racist system that traumatizes you, but then personally you also experience it. So there's trauma upon trauma. So as the wound, you can't even heal one wound, the other it's added to it, and then the other is added to it. And so we are sometimes we're in a traumatic state. We sometimes people are just in a traumatic state, and it feels like, what am I going to do? How am I going to triage this? So the answer to your question is yes, it is persistent. It would continue. In fact, there is something called post-traumatic slavery syndrome, which is the PTSD for those who went through the progenies of those who went through slavery. It is there. We cannot say it isn't. It's been manifested every day. So that's a little,
Oh, that's a lot.
for that.
And those are the facts.
Yes.
Those are the facts. And
Correct.
so I'm getting a little bit of feedback. And so it's amazing. And so it's like you said, it's generations and legacies of trauma upon trauma. And because we're still dealing with it, the systemic racism, it continues on and on. Okay. You know what? Okay. I don't know what to say now.
It is perpetual.
It's perpetual.
It is perpetual. And so and it manifests in different ways. It just manifests in different ways. There's some things that, collectively, there's collective trauma where we all experience the same thing and we're all, manifesting different symptoms. But one thing we need to know is, even though slavery and systemic racism is a traumatic event, the thing about trauma is this: you might have a traumatic event, doesn't necessarily mean that you are traumatized. It's because what happens is when there's an incoming stimuli, when there's something is coming in and it's saying, and it's telling your brain, it's telling it, hey, look, we can't handle this. We cannot handle this. It's telling your amygdala is saying we can't handle this. The amygdala then now sends messages to the hypothalamus, and it says, look, we need help. That's when you get the adrenaline, it's rushing, your fight, flight or freeze mode is activated. And then you have this thing in your automatic nervous system called sympathetic nerves and parasympathetic nerves. Now your sympathetic nerve serves like your gas pedal in your car. When you want to speed and you step on it, well, that's what releases adrenaline. It's saying, okay, you go and fight the situation or flee the situation, or sometimes we freeze. And then what happens is, if that is not enough, I'm getting somewhere with this. If that isn't enough, then it signals for more help. And then you get this chemical called cortisol that is then being secreted in your body. Here is the problem, Latanya. Here's the problem. The problem is, when this thing is going on in your brain, when all this is going on, it literally quarantines all parts of your processes. So like respiratory systems, like the metabolic systems, like reproductive systems, it literally quarantines those so that your body can have enough oxygen, enough strength to fight the issue that's at hand. That you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's supposed to happen, and then at some point your parasympathetic is supposed to put brakes on it. It's supposed to say, okay, we are okay now, let's shut this down. That's what's supposed to happen. But in a systemic racist system or community, parasympathetic never would not shut down because your brain is constantly thinking that you're in danger. What does this say? There are ramifications for all of this. It can explain why we have, haven't you ever wondered, why do Black people get all these diseases? How come we're always getting something? How come this is always happening to us? Well, we're always in a state of alert. We're always in a constant state of alertness. And so and what does that look like? You're hypervigilant. You go from a 0 to a 10 in a minute. What are you don't, trusting? You can't really trust because you know that there's danger. You don't feel safe. You don't feel that people understand you. You can't, and this has ramifications in every area of life. In the relationships, in the jobs that we choose, even in the way we perceive our bosses, in the way we perceive close relationships, all of this have ramifications. And then you're wondering why people are on the streets doing all this stuff. When people are in a state of alert, when they feel there's danger, they will automatically react to that. That's the body. Our bodies are constantly in that state when you are traumatized. This is what's going on.
A state of alert.
Yes.
Pretty much at
Danger.
all times.
All the time. All the time. What does that mean? You can't really relax. I mean, think about relationships because they talk about all these statistics all the time. Think about relationships. You can't even really relax in your relationship to be able to have intimacy because you're alert. Your best friend or your friend does something to you that you should ordinarily just forgive, but because you're in a state of alert, you're triggered. You are immediately triggered. You're triggered. Little things trigger you. So these are some of the things that we have not been talking about, but we've been dealing with all without. Some people don't even know that they're dealing with it, but it's there.
And that's the key. We do not realize that we're dealing with it. And so therefore, we don't even understand what's happening on the inside of us. Like you said, we're dealing, as you said, hypervigilant. Now we have hypertension. We got diabetes. We have all of these problems. Yeah. And a lot of it has stemmed from systemic racism. Absolutely. And we don't even recognize the fact that's where it has come from all along. My God, today we are learning something today, are we not, you all? Because when we understand that, have the knowledge and understand how to deal with this, we can deal with it and move past it. And so we don't have the next generations consistently dealing with this stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So then how do we, I want to say, cut it at the root? How do we deal with this? Can it happen in which we can stop our bodies? Help us, okay. Doctor.
I'll just put it out there right now. First of all, there are two things we're talking about. We're talking about collective restoration and individual personal restoration. It's, sometimes the collective one might take a minute. The collective one might take some time because we have to go through the process of healing. We have to go through the process of forgiveness, restoration, reparations. We have to go through all of those in order for us to be able to get to a point where we have what I call a testimony, where we're able to say, okay, we have come to a place as a group where we feel as if justice has been served. Because forgiveness without justice sometimes will lead you to frustrations. And so justice is, as a Christian, you think of it in the realm of God, but there's also justice that is served here on the earth. You take my stuff, you return it. You stole from me, you return it. That's very simple. And so collectively, we're not all, and this is good news. I don't want to leave everybody in a state of panic here, but collectively, we're not all in a traumatized state. Collectively, because some of us handle it better than others. You
Right.
know, and it is important to say this, because some people are more prepared. They're more resilient than others, and so a lot of us, some of us, are not in the state of trauma. Now, the other thing is resiliency. I believe that we are intrinsically resilient human beings as
Mhm.
Black people. I mean, think about all of the coping mechanisms of slavery, how they went through that and survived. We're still here. The fact that we're still here tells you that we are resilient and that we will overcome this as a group. In those, you have to look back into to history to think of how they overcame, and how did they, you know, come through all of the acts of all the evil acts that were perpetrated on them. How did the people survive? They survived through community, and that is one of my concerns. That they survive through community. They, no matter, the people try to separate them. They'll take fathers and they'll separate them from their families. They'll separate husbands from wives. But at the same time, this group still got together. They still found a niche. They found community. Community is important. It's in the context of relationships that would get wounded, no matter what type of relationship. It could be a close relationship, like a one-on-one relationship, but it could also be a communal relationship, or it could be a larger society relationship. But we get wounded in the context of relationship. But the opposite is also true, that we get healed in the context of relationship. It's a lie, that it's a lie from wherever it is that says that you can get healed by yourself. It doesn't happen. We're relational beings. You're going to get healed and you're going to get restored in a safe place, in a safe community, in a safe relationship. So one of the things that we can do is develop a sense of community again. To develop a sense of community. Know that you are your brother's keeper. Know that you are your sister's keeper. That is important. Because the distrust that we have acquired because of the trauma spills over to even within sisters and brothers. So we need to know, we need to recognize it. If we can recognize that is a trauma syndrome, that is a trauma reaction, then that is 50% of the healing right there. The way I'm reacting to you, that's not me. That's trauma talking. Okay, so we're going to now decide that we are going to have groups. We would develop, they had churches then. They moved together, and even though churches now have some churches have turned into social clubs and whatever it is that they turn into. But the root of it back then during slavery was community. It was a place where I could show my wound. I could testify. It was a place where I could bare my soul and I will feel safe that and this is happening. So in the Black community, I think that one of the things that we can develop during this time collectively, I'm talking about collectively now, it's community, a sense of community. So that's one. Second, oh, go ahead.
So it is so necessary, because I know even with my family, I have some family on here. I see my niece is here, my sister is here, Dr. Sawyer, and my niece Tiffany. She's also an educator. And so what I begin to notice, even with our family, we still connect on Sundays, which makes a difference. And for me, it makes a big difference. And I'm even hearing it in everyone that is a part of it, all of my family members. It's making a difference, because we talk about it and we get a chance to learn one another even more. And it is so necessary. So keep on, Dr. Ken. And so even for you all out here that are listening, I know we started the pandemic and families were getting together on Zoom. And I know a lot of families stopped. But for us, we continued on. I'm feeling something here. We continued on, because we felt it to be so necessary to and this is how we break it, and this is how we emerge. Okay, go on, Dr. Ken.
Absolutely. Don't stop that, because there is an essence, especially for healthy families, for safe families. What happens is, if you're weak, you can strengthen me. See, the idea, this individualistic idea of the Western culture it's foreign to us as Black people, and we shouldn't adopt it. We come from people who grew up together in tribes,
Tribes.
in tribes. And so this is important that we need to begin to adopt this. This hasn't worked for us. This individual, I'm just going to go do my thing. I'm solo myself. It hasn't worked. People are just too stressed. People are, it's not working. And so we need to go back to what works. And the thing about communities is there is healing in communities. It's the safe communities are healing communities.
Yeah.
They're communities that are resourceful. And the other thing is they're communities that are creative. We find that when communities are safe, people are more creative, because guess what happens? You let your guards down. Cortisol, one of the ways you shut that parasympathetic nervous system is to slow things down. Okay? And what happens when you're breaking bread? You're slowing things down. Heart rate slows down. Your amygdala is saying, "Oh, there's no danger. We can chill today."
Right.
And things just kind of calm down. But it's not only that. When we build these communities, it's not just to talk. It's not just so we can get, that's a start. But it's also that we can actually build communities, economic communities. Okay? We can build, yes, we can build businesses together. We can buy homes together. This is what I'm talking about. Because remember, I told you, this is the house that Jack built. At some point, we're going to have to build our houses. All right? No, we're going to have to build our own communities. And so at the point where I say, hey, look, Miss Washington over there, look, I need help. This is what I need. Can you help me with this? What do you have? What do I have that I can bring to you? How can we network? How can we collaborate? How can we do this together? Because of something is better than 0% of something. Do you see what I'm saying? So even if I'm not getting all 100%, at least I'm getting something. Because right now you're not getting anything. So even if there's 4 of us or 5 of us, we're getting something. So this is how we build these communities. It's not just a community to heal our emotional wounds. That's a start. That's where we need to start. But we need to start talking about, how can I help you? How can we do this together? Because that man over there, the big guy over there, is not going to help us. Oh, they can help you today and take it back tomorrow.
They can take it back tomorrow. And that is so, okay. And that's it. That's real.
They can take it back tomorrow. So at some point, I think we need to get to a point, and we're going to get there. I believe that this is the right time. I believe that if we realize that this trauma cannot be perpetual, we need to nip it in the bud. And one of the ways, as an individual, you can take care of trauma is if you find that you have recurring thoughts, if you find that you're constantly worried about issues, about things that have happened, like you're triggered. You see somebody, you're triggered, and you have a chip on your shoulder. What you say?
I have triggers.
Okay, you have, yes. When you see that, then it's time to take care of yourself. Because here's what we do, especially Black women. We're Black women, so we can talk on that level, right? We have this whole notion of strength. We have this whole notion of, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it all. I can do it. I can do everything that I feel like want to do. Just because you can do everything doesn't mean you should do everything. Remember what I said about in a state of alert. We need to shut that down. We need to be calm. We need to make sure that we're not constantly on alert. And so you need to find help. Find people that are going to help you. Know that you can't do everything. Stop trying to do everything. And if there's triggers and that you cannot, or there are memories you cannot remember, there are gaps in your memory, this is time you need to get help. There's another thing, and I want to just shout this out to people watching us who you don't really think too highly of therapy or counseling. It is a gift. Please give it to yourself. They have been trained to help you. There's no need to suffer in silence. There's no need to suffer at all. And some pastors cannot really help you because they've not been trained in this. So even when you're speaking to your pastor, sometimes you need to get professional help, because at some point, all the joints are supplying what all of us need. And so the pastor can speak to you on a spiritual platform, which is needed, because I brought somebody on my show the other day, and she said, pretty much said, racism is evil. It's a sin. It's also a stronghold. And so there's a spiritual component to that, but there are also psychological, neurological, emotional components to it, social components to it that we need to triage. We cannot keep acting as if we're okay when we're not. So let me ask you this, Tanya. So if you're driving a car,
Mhm.
and you just bump into some of those little potholes in Rialto. I'm calling them out because they need to
Yeah.
fix their potholes, right? You know, you're driving by and you just bump into one of those small ones.
Mhm.
Nothing happens. You just say, oh, that's a pothole, and you keep going. But you drive that same route every day, and you keep hitting that pothole every day, and you keep hitting that pothole every day. At some point, your car is going to tell you something is up, right? So
Right.
that's one scenario. The second scenario is you're driving one day and you get into a massive pothole. What happens? You
And
can't keep driving.
you cannot keep driving. It's gonna go kaput.
You're going to have to get out of that car and find help.
You need help. That's right.
That's when we're talking about trauma.
Hmm.
It's a big pothole.
It's a big pothole. We need
You
help.
have stressors. The little potholes are stressors here and there. You
Yeah.
get this is a stress, that's a stress, but at some point you get into the trauma becomes massive, and you have to triage it. So when you're having recurring dreams, when you're having nightmares, when you cannot keep friends, when you cannot keep relationships, when you can't trust anybody, when somebody touches you and you feel like this, you overreact. With all of those things, these are little well, they're not even, they're big flashlights saying, look, we need to stop. You need to stop. You can't keep going on this way. You can't keep going on this way. So at that point, we need then to stop and triage it.
We need triage. We need
Yes,
therapy. And it's okay
yes,
to ask for help. And it's
yes,
okay to seek out therapy. And you're right. We can, because some pastors say just call on Jesus. Let's just pray over it. But we need more than that,
yes.
because we can pray, get excited, get emotional, but the problem is still there. The big pothole is still there.
I'll tell you something.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes even the way we praise the Lord, I'm gonna put this right here. Sometimes even the way we praise the Lord is a trauma reaction.
That's real. I'm gonna shout it out. I'm gonna shout it out. I'm gonna shout it out. We get in the
Because
car.
it's that state of hyperactivity. Is that state is still all part of the trauma. Lord Jesus, help me. All of this thing is still all part of the trauma. And guess what it's doing? It's recycling the energy that you need to calm down.
Because we get in the car and we still depressed. Then we go back and
that's what I'm talking about. So let me just tell you, your audience, just a few things you can do. Just before because I'm looking at the time, just a few things that can be done. Breathing. Systematic breathing. You need to know how to breathe, okay? Because this is very important. Well, you're going to inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hold it on 6, and breathe out on 7. Okay? Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hold it on 6, and then breathe all the way out on 7. They're different types, but that works. And you have to do it consistently. It literally tells your brain everything is okay. It resets It resets your brain. It tells the brain that you're fine. See, when the brain doesn't feel safe, that's when cortisol is begins to get released. We need to tell our brain it's safe. Another thing I tell people is put your hands right here or in your heart. Not over, yeah, make sure that you feel skin to skin.
Mhm.
Okay. And when you do that, you're going to feel you can feel your heart. You need to tell it to slow down
Slow down.
and watch it slow down. Just put your hand there. Can you
Slow
feel it?
down. Hmm.
And
Yes.
and the good thing about this is you can also heal some things. You can tell your heart, you can say, look, um, that I am no longer that child that was abused. I'm no longer that child that person that was abused, or taken advantage of. I'm well now. It's okay now. You do this, do it every night, do it as often, anytime. Just and it's heart to heart, you know, it's flesh to flesh.
Flesh to
you,
flesh.
you flesh to flesh, you can feel it. And this healing, it helps us, just calm down, and it helps us begin to circulate, the oxygen, and begin to circulate the goodness. The oxytocin is released, and we can actually be happier. The happy parts of your brain begins to say, okay, yeah, okay, she got it together now. Let's relax. When your body doesn't feel safe, it's wounding for your body. It doesn't. We keep trauma in our bodies. Your body. That's why sometimes you feel a headache. You feel all kinds of things. Your this hurts. That hurts. Somatization. It hurts. Things begin to just go wrong. It's the trauma. It's the trauma. And so let's fix. And sometimes we're like, okay, go take Tylenol. Go take this. You're just fixing the symptom. We want to fix the root of the problem.
Okay.
And by doing the things that I've just said, just tidbits of things that we can do. And if people can do it consistently for 30 days, actually, you could do it for 40 days, but I'll give you guys 30. Each day you just practice your breathing, and you practice just putting your hands there, and just flesh to flesh, and just feeling your heart, and just slowing it down, and participate in. You need to move.
Yeah.
You need to move. It's also part of healing. Um, so walking is good. It helps with all of the dopamine, serotonin, all of the good thing, all of the good stuff. Because when you have adrenaline pumping through you, okay, that's not epinephrine. We don't want that. We don't want that. We want the good chemicals. You want dopamine, you want serotonin, but you don't want them in such a way that it makes you too hyper either, especially when you're traumatized. So that's why you need to just, for trauma, you want to slow things down a little bit. You want to slow things down, even in your life, you want to slow it down.
Someone already says, I think, Ramona, we need a group session, Dr. Ken. We need a group session. We might have to set up a group
You,
communal
you
group
can set up
session.
a sister circle.
We need a
We,
sister. Okay, don't
yeah,
start me because I will, right?
you set it up.
I will. I'm so glad you are at the L.I.S.T tour this year once again. And so, okay, we didn't even get to the other questions because
I
this
knew it.
is what was necessary right here. This is so good, and I know for my family, we gonna be working on all this stuff here because this is how we get through the process of all this systemic racism because we can overcome it. We can overcome it, but we need each other because, as you said, no man is an island. We cannot be alone. And a lot of times, especially as Black folk, we want to get to ourselves and just try to get through, but we need each other able to talk it out, the sister circles, the man caves, all of that stuff to get through the process. So Dr. Akin, where can people find you? Okay, Ramona, I got you. We need a group session. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You
Dr.
can find
Akin,
me.
give
You
your
can find me
information.
on social media at Dr. Ken Marino, or at Dr. Ken Marino, either on Twitter, Instagram, or on Facebook. I'm there, and to help. My joy, and I'm hoping through mental health, We can bring healing to communities. We
Yeah.
can, especially the Black community, we can bring healing. We can know that there is that intersection of faith and mental health, that they don't have to be mutually exclusive. They're not, like if I want to find the best therapist in the world, I would go to Father God himself. He was a good therapist. He knew how to do it. And so this is not, either or. It's all part of the process. It's all part of the plan. And the thing that God has given us as Black people is community. We know this, so let's build it. Let's build on it. And you said something I just want to address before I stop talking here. Is you said we want to isolate. You said, when something happens, you want to pull back. When that happens, know that it is a trauma response. Okay, so it's a trauma response. So just know that. I mean, part of the healing is just knowledge. Part of the healing is knowledge. So when that is going on, know that that's not you making that choice. It's the trauma that's making that choice.
It's the
And
trauma.
so know that's a trauma response.
Woo, Lord, we have learned something today, Dr. Akin. You know what? I will be replaying this over and over and over again. This is part of my healing process because, as you said, knowledge is so much. When we have the knowledge, we can get through what we need to get through. But I am so glad we have this, and I'm so glad you are here. And not only just for this session, y'all, she is here. If we need help, she is here. I'll be calling you later.
It's been a joy.
I'm so glad I know you. But give us your final thoughts on systemic racism and the effects it has on mental health. Give us your last thoughts before we leave here. I know you guys are still leaving comments. All right, Dr. Ken.
So one of the things I want to punctuate everywhere I go is this. Systemic racism is real, and systemic racism is about how we operate within a system. Your white brother and sister, or your whoever brother and sister out there, your problem is not with that person next door. That person next door is a beneficiary of the system. Okay? Or that person next door might be nice to you or not be nice to you. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if a white person is nice to you or not nice to you, or you're nice to it doesn't matter. That's superfluous. That's not the problem. That's just until the end of time, people are going to have prejudices and racist instinct. That's not what this moment is about. What this moment is about is, if there is a system that is constantly wounding me and mine, then that system has to be restructured in a way that it nurtures us as a community. That's what the moment is about. The fight is not about one or two people. The fight is the systems that keep killing our sons and daughters. That system is an evil one that needs to be triaged, that system itself. And so when we fight, we need to make sure that we all are aware of what we're fighting about. We need to define our terms. This is not about any one person, because people get, when you have people of other ethnicity or race to come in, they sometimes feel like, but I didn't do anything. But the question is, I didn't do anything either. You didn't do anything either. You didn't ask to be born Black in this society. You didn't do anything. But it's not about you, neighbor. It's not about you, my friend. It's not about you, whoever you are. It is about a system. That's what we're dealing with. And as a people, a way to fight a system can never be individualistic. Never. You don't have the capacity to hit at that system by yourself. But if the whole tribe binds together, then we can pull that system down. That's what this moment is about.
And that's it. as a tribe, we can pull the system down. We can pull down the stronghold, and that's what we have to do.
Absolutely.
I have nothing left. I have nothing left to say. There's nothing left. There's nothing. I have nothing. This is it. Thank you so much, Dr. Akin, for this information. I mean, I feel so lifted and I feel so overjoyed, and it has definitely increased me in understanding the fact we can win, we can emerge, we can be victorious in it. And it's the mindset and about the cortisols and the epinephrine. I mean, okay, I'm going back and I'm going to replay all this stuff. But thank you so much for this. Thank you, Ramona. I had to put my shirt on, Ramona. It's all about the culture. I mean, my amazing shirt that they sent to me. Thank you so much from Chosen Solutions. You all take all of this information, take it to heart, replay it over and over again, share it with your community, share it with your family, your friends. Everyone needs to understand this, because this is the only way we're going to be able to fight. We're going to be able to win against this systemic racism. It's not about, as you said, Dr. Ken, it's not about the individual. It's about the system. And we have to learn to come together and fight. Thank you again for this amazing information. For you all that need to get in touch with her, she gave out, you can, at the end of the day, you can Google her. And if you really, really can't find her, definitely hit me up. Ramona, I hear you about the group sessions. Let's get it together. It's all about community. And thank you guys once again for joining us here. And until next Monday, thank you all. And we'll see you again on Night School.